Throughout this season so far, we have seen the New York Rangers hand out three different contract extensions to three different players here. One to Alexis Lafreniere, Igor Shesterkin, and the most recent one being Will Brogden. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at all three of these contract extensions and kind of talk about them and see how good they could be for this New York Rangers team kind of going forward, and, whether or not I think they're bad, good, and just kind of, talk about these contract extensions as a whole. So let's get right into it here and begin with the first one that happened this season, and that was the Alexis Lafreniere contract extension, which was a total of $52.15 million over 7 years, which equals a cap hit of $7.45 million, which I don't think is too bad at all. When this contract was initially signed, I was quite happy with it. I think it is going to be a fairly team-friendly contract. Now, right away, next season in the first year of the deal, is it going to look like an absolute steal? Maybe not like an absolute steal, but I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years down the road when this cap has gone up, what is it going to be, like 20, 30, 40 mil over the next, 5, 6 seasons, whatever it's going to be. This cap hit is not going to look too bad at all. And I mean, I'm just kind of saying numbers there. I don't know exactly how much it's going to be going up, but you get what I'm saying there. The cap is expected to skyrocket up over the next couple of seasons a ton. It's supposed to go up a lot and a lot more than the normal kind of limit that it can go up per season. So if it does end up doing that, which the kind of reports and kind of projections are, if it ends up skyrocketing up that much, it's only going to make these contract extensions, not just the Lafreniere deal, but especially the Lafreniere deal, look even better. And that is something that I think, when some fans maybe were a little worried about initially seeing that contract kind of signed with a cap hit of, almost $7.5 million, some fans maybe got a little worried. But if you do remember with how much cap's going up, I really don't think this deal is going to look bad at all. I actually think it's going to be a bit of a steal going forward in the future at some point. And Lafreniere is still a guy who is not getting, much power play time. I mean, he's getting a bit here and there, but it's not like he's getting consistent kind of power play one time. He still only has 4 power play points throughout this entire season so far. 2 power play goals, 2 power play assists in 49 games played. So he is still doing most of his work there. Most of his offense production is still coming at 5-on-5 at even strength, which is exactly what you want to see. This is a player who, last season especially had a really great season at 5-on-5, getting the job done, being, one of the top, not like the top 10, but one of the better kind of 5-on-5, even the strength kind of scorers in the entire NHL, which is exactly what you want to see out of a young player like Lafreniere, who, has still not yet gotten that chance to be a consistent, game in and game out power play one kind of guy, but he's, not just kind of crying in the corner. He's getting the job done. He's producing at 5-on-5, and he earned that contract that he obviously got earlier this season. So I'm overall quite happy with this contract. I think going forward, it's going to look good. Maybe this second, it's not looking like a steal, but I do think, let time come along here, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, this deal could look like an absolute steal and could truly be one of the best contracts in the entire NHL, especially if Lafreniere can take even more steps in his game and kind of maybe get even more close to, being a point per game kind of plus player if he does get that power play, one kind of time. And I do still think if he does get that power play one time there and he's still producing great at 5-on-5, which I definitely think he can, and he continues to kind of grow in his game, I do think he can be, an 80 to 90 point kind of guy for sure. It just kind of depends on whether or not he's going to get that power play time, whether or not he can still kind of develop, even more. But I do think either way, he's going to be one of those maybe, 60, 70 point kind of guys at least for years and years to come. And that's kind of on the low end, I think, in my opinion. As long as he's staying healthy season in, season out, he's going to be a 60, 70 point kind of guy with the upside of being a point per game plus kind of player, in my opinion. It just kind of depends on what the power play time is for him. But I do think he has that kind of upside to really be a very, very good player in this league for years and years to come. And his contract could end up being a really big plus for this Rangers team down the road. And now we have the second contract extension that was handed out by the New York Rangers so far this season, and that is goaltender Igor Shesterkin, who ended up getting a record-breaking historic contract for a goaltender, and that is an 8-year deal worth $92 million total with a cap hit per season of $11.5 million. And there were a lot of reports going around earlier this season about Igor maybe wanting more than 12. And I mean, just so many different kind of reports that were going around talking about this contract extension and how, at first Igor maybe didn't want to kind of, after training camp, want to talk about a extension mid-season. The reports about that, obviously, that didn't end up happening. So they talked, they came to a conclusion there, they come to an extension, and the deal's done. It's $11.5 million cap hit per season for the next 8 years. And, I think overall, it's not too bad. I know a lot of Rangers fans definitely did not love this deal, and I understand that. Paying a goalie $11.5 million, it's a lot. It is a ton of money for a goaltender, but this is a guy who has proven to be by far the most valuable player, I would say, honestly, in the entire playoffs over the last 3 kind of playoffs, really. I mean, if you take a look at what the Rangers have been able to do, making 2 of the last Eastern Conference Finals, and I know I say that a lot, but it's a pretty big thing to do. I mean, making 2 of the last 3 Eastern Conference Finals is not an easy thing to do, and especially when you don't have the best, maybe overall constructed roster, but you have a goalie like Igor Shesterkin, sometimes good things can happen. We have seen a lot of playoff success for this Rangers team. Now, yes, obviously we have not gotten over the top there. I have not seen this team make that cup final in a long time now and obviously win that cup, but we have seen this team go on a couple of really good runs there, and the main part of that has clearly been Igor Shesterkin and kind of what he's done, being by far the most valuable player, not only for the Rangers, but like I said, I think pretty much overall in the playoffs over the last 3 seasons as well, you could argue. So this is a guy who is just such an important piece to this team. Without Igor, this team is not going to make playoffs more than likely, or at least would really struggle to do so. And if they somehow did, there's no way they'd be able to get out of the first round. So this is the Rangers team that relies on Igor a lot, and letting him walk away just would not have been a good decision. I think that's kind of the issue where the Rangers were really kind of cornered in there. I mean, they didn't have much of a choice to just kind of let Igor walk, because it's not like you can just go out there and, find another goalie in free agency or trade for another goalie just like that, and you have an above average, good, consistent starting goaltender like we have seen from Igor. And yes, I get in the regular season, he has not been very consistent for the most part over his career, for the most part, other than kind of one season there back in 2021, 2022 when he won that Vezina, but he has been extremely consistent in the playoffs when it matters most. And as Rangers fans, we have complained a lot about certain players, like maybe a Panarin or a Zibanejad, these high-paid players, not getting the job done when it matters most in the playoffs. So for us to, let a guy like Igor Shesterkin kind of walk away, who has been that guy who has season in, season out, playoff run in, playoff run out, has proven to be an elite playoff performer. To me, you just really can't let that guy go. So, overall, do I love that contract, $11.5 million cap hit? No, but is it okay? And I do think it's manageable to build a team around and, possibly to still have that kind of a cap hit for a goalie and still possibly win a cup down the road? Absolutely, especially when that goalie is as good as Igor. And when he does show up in the biggest moments in the playoffs, I definitely think this is a fine contract here. Is it a great one? Is it a team-friendly one? Not really, but is it a fine cap hit? I really do think so, and I think it is manageable for this team. I mean, like I said, you just could not let this guy walk away. You just could not let it happen. He is such a big and important part of this New York Rangers team, and without him, there is really not a whole lot of hope to go on much of a playoff run or even have any playoff success really at all. So I think keeping him around was an absolute no-brainer, and I am more than fine with this deal. Overall, though, going forward in the future, I do think eventually this contract, unless Igor, falls off a cliff, which, I don't really see happening, I would imagine this deal is probably going to look very good and, just kind of like the Lafreniere deal, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, when other goalies are starting to get paid, above Igor and stuff like that in a couple seasons, that's really when you're going to start to see this Igor deal look really, really good. 2, 3 years, this deal, once other goalies start to catch up, really, I think it's going to look more than fine. So, yeah, maybe this upcoming season, the first year when it kicks in, it may not look like the overall kind of best value, you could say, but I do think that going forward into the future, this deal will look more than fine and will definitely be more than manageable for this team to kind of have on the books there, obviously, but also still compete for that Stanley Cup. So overall, Igor, he's definitely been up and down so far this season in general. Had a pretty good October to begin the season. Had a couple bad months there in November and December, you could say, but has turned it back around in January. He's looking like that elite goaltender that we all know he is and will be, hopefully going forward into the future for a very, very long time. And now we have the third and final contract extension that we're going to talk about in today's video, and that is the most recent one as well, and it is Will Borgen's deal, which ended up being a total of $20.5 million over the next 5 seasons, worth a cap hit of $4.1 million per season, which I think is all right for a player of Will's caliber. Now, I don't think it's a phenomenal contract, but I also don't think it's a terrible one. And I did have a video already up on the channel as well that I posted on Sunday, kind of having a more in-depth kind of breakdown on this extension and kind of really going in deep on just specifically this contract extension for Will. So definitely, if you haven't already, go check it out. And I'll obviously not going to go into too much detail as much as I did in that video, but really and truly, just kind of overall here, I think in general, this contract is probably going to be all right, but there definitely is some risk to it, in my opinion. We have seen Will in a very small sample size with this Rangers team, and for the most part over his career and previous seasons, even this one, he has been, for the most part, a pretty much third-pairing defenseman. So I think giving a third-pairing guy who, for the most part, that's what he's been over his career, giving him $4.1 million on a 5-year contract, it is a little worrying. It's going to take him, starting to get towards his mid-30s by the time this contract is done. So I think for Will, this is an absolute no-brainer of a contract. I mean, he just kind of instantly got traded to the Rangers, and whether or not he was a truly kind of, coveted piece in that deal, we don't exactly know, but obviously the Rangers have been thrilled with what they've seen so far from him and have offered him a pretty lucrative contract. I mean, you may think, okay, $4.1 million, even with the cap going up as much as it is, and I have talked about that a lot, 4.1, with the cap going up a bunch, maybe it won't be that much, and it won't affect things too much, but it's definitely not nothing, and I do think that it's not going to be like a contract that's going to, completely be the downfall of this Rangers team, and they're not going to be able to build a cup contending team because of this deal, in 2-3 years, but this is one where if he does take the steps back and reverts back to being a true kind of bottom pairing caliber guy and is truly going to be a bottom pairing caliber defenseman for most of this contract, then there is a bit of a worry with this deal. And it's not like I said, it's not going to be a groundbreaking, terrible deal where it ruins his franchise, but it is one of those deals where, in 2-3 years, maybe you're kicking yourself saying, hey, if he had that extra $4.1 million, man, imagine what we could do with that, right? You could go up there and, spend half that on that fourth pairing guy and then go out there and use it extra little bit for whatever else. I mean, I'm just kind of, picking at things there, but that's kind of my point, is that the $4.1 million, if he does revert back to being a true bottom pairing guy, maybe in the 4th or 5th year of this deal, that doesn't really matter because the cap has gone up so much, but in year 2 or 3 of this deal, maybe that $4.1 million is having a bit of an impact on this team and kind of what they can do if he is truly being that bottom pairing kind of guy. So that is where I am a little kind of worried about this contract. But overall, I think, if he does kind of continue at this pace, I think, his contract's going to be kind of fine, but there is definitely some risk to this deal. And, him and Miller have played really good together, but it has been a small sample size, and Miller has been so inconsistent over his time as the New York Rangers. So there is definitely some worrying factors to this deal, but overall, it should be all right for this team, and it should not be too big of a deal at the end of the day. And there are actually some clauses in this contract as well. It's not like he doesn't have any kind of no trade clauses at all. He does have a few here, and we'll break them down right now. So in 2025-2026, his first season with the New York Rangers under this new contract, he will have a full no trade clause. Then in year 2, 2026-2027, it will go down to a 15-team no trade list. Then it goes down in 2027-2028 to a 10-team no trade list, and then it goes down in 2028-2029, it goes to a 6-team no trade list, and then the final year of this deal in 2029-2030, it becomes nothing. There is no trade clause on there at all, so he has no choice or no kind of decision on any kind of teams that he can kind of block from being traded to. So I think overall, maybe a little disappointed that he does have, these trade clauses at all, but at least it's not like a full trade clause for the entire deal, which really would have sucked here. And I do think this is a contract that shouldn't be too hard to get rid of if you really have to down the road. I mean, maybe you have to attach, a pick or two, or maybe retain a little bit of money, or take back a different kind of not amazing contract possibly. But I just think in general, this deal, shouldn't be too bad, but definitely isn't amazing. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on this whole kind of situation here with all these contract extensions. Do you like them all? Do you hate them all? Do you like certain ones? Do you hate certain ones? Let me know your thoughts on these 3 contract extensions in the comment section down below. And also, has your kind of opinion maybe changed on one of these certain players, any 3 of these guys, even after Will's only happened a few days ago? Has your opinion kind of changed possibly after, seeing some of these guys maybe play some games with their new deals, or just kind of seeing them play as of recent? Do you like these deals more now? Do you hate them more? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and bye.